Just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your Thursday to join us, which I hope to not keep you too long. Just want to give you as much information from our experience as I possibly can in an hour. We like to do these quick webinars for my company, not corporation, so that we can give you the experience that we went through. So that you can have a better experience as an entrepreneur. With that being said, let's jump right into it. Kind of my entrepreneur story. I started in customer experience in 2003, right? That was mostly as an independent contractor. I didn't tend to work directly for companies as W-2, even though I did. But I mostly worked as an independent contractor starting from 2003. Then after that, I kind of moved into making my own firm with my friend Rahul Singh, who was also my roommate in college. So that's kind of how we met. And we made that firm in 2008. We both took Sitecore certification in 2011, 2012. Around that area because we had a client that requested it, right? That's the only reason why I got into Sitecore is because we had made a firm. Our firm was looking for money, just like any other firm would be doing. And we noticed that Sitecore was a top platform or was gaining steam, you know what I mean, in the ASP.NET arena, which we concentrated in. We currently work, our studio, not corporation, we currently work on 4 Sitecore customers, different customers with different needs in different areas of either cloud or on-premise. I personally won the Sitecore MVP 2020. This year is my first time winning it, so we are trying to basically expand our Sitecore practice, not just with employees, but with other studios, like partnering with other studios. That being said, the agenda of today is to see what is the value of entrepreneurship, especially in the Sitecore arena. What is the future of work? What are the common entry points into Sitecore? What is a Sitecore entrepreneur? And then after that, what is the entrepreneurship life cycle, right? So the value of entrepreneurship, I'll just start, before I get to the value, I'll start with the cons, right? The cons of being an entrepreneur is that it's difficult, right? It's hard to do. It's hard to start your own business. It's hard to be an independent contractor, right? It's hard to make demands on a customer that is much, much larger than you, right? You have to usually define your own health benefits. You have to usually define your own retirement. You represent you, right? Another company is not representing you, right? You don't always have W-2 as an option. A lot of times you do have W-2 as an option when you're independent contractor or you're working for a firm, but sometimes you don't, right? You would have to do a 1099 and pay extra taxes. This is usually for Americans, right? We would have to pay an extra tax or a different way of doing taxes, right? You have to recruit your own people instead of just being recruited, right? You have to get insurance, right, to protect your team. If your team member is on site and has an issue, you have to have insurance, or companies won't even look at you. They won't even hire you, right? You have to get your own customers. You don't just join a team. Well, you could, but most of the time, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to directly get a customer, or you have to directly negotiate. You don't tend to come into a situation where everything is done for you, like a normal company. You have to make your own brand, right? You have to stand out from others who are competing to do the same thing. And you have to create your own platform relationship, right? Whatever you are working with, whatever your studio is working with, you have to have some kind of relationship with that brand, or it's going to work against you, right? So all of the cons being said, it's like, what is the value? Well, the value is you get more customers, right? Instead of just going to work as a full-time person for a company, if you work as a contractor or entrepreneur, you can work for multiple customers at the same time, right? I personally, I manage 4 different teams, right? If I was a normal direct hire, I would not be able to do that, right? I would struggle to be able to do that. I think it would be if I worked for one Sitecore customer and then I said, I want to work for 3 other customers, they would have an issue with that, right? But as I'm an entrepreneur, I own my own firm, they don't have an issue with that. They were explained that in the beginning, right? You are communally engaged, right? You're engaged with the community because you know the best people, right? Since you're an entrepreneur, you're more open to engagement with the community, right? You're less likely to just stay in your own zone. You're more likely to expand outward, not stay inward, right? You get paid what you want, right? A little bit more. Not saying that if you were direct hire, you wouldn't get paid what you want, but you have more negotiation of upward mobility, right? You can go from 100 an hour to 150 an hour faster than it would take you to get a raise, like to wait on a raise, which is like 2 to 5% per year, things like that, right? You can compete to be the best studio, but also bring others with you, right? So you don't have to be by yourself, basically, right? You can work more from around the world, right? You can do this as a direct hire, but as an entrepreneur, you have more negotiation, right? You have more ability to say, no, I want to work remote, right? There's more transparency. You're more clued in onto what's happening, right? When you are direct hire, you kind of just come in, they place you on a team, and you have a hierarchy where your boss and other bosses know things that you don't know, right? As an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to know those things, right? Or it'll violate your contract, things like that, right? You can get recurring work easier, right? So after your project ends, it's easier if you already have another project, right? Or if you have another customer already, it's easier to flow into that project, or it's easier to ask your current project for more work when you're an entrepreneur, right? When you're not an entrepreneur, you can't really do that, right? It's up to your company to do that. They handle that, and you're not really clued in. So if there was a project you really wanted to work on, you can suggest you want to work on it, but you don't really have the final say, right? And then, of course, at the end of the day, the client wins when you are an entrepreneur, right? Because your demands and requests make you more happy. You win, the client wins, and the client sees more transparency, and they see more the value of having you over trying to hire someone, right? Over trying to find and hire someone and understand Sitecore, they could just hire you. There's more value in that. Right? So moving on to the future of work, how people want to work is, in my opinion, they want to be entrepreneurs, right? They, specifically in a COVID world, they want to choose their own location, right? There's nothing wrong with working on site, absolutely nothing wrong, but personally, I don't like it, right? I don't mind going to a client site for 2 or 3 days. I don't mind flying to a place I've never been for a couple of days, totally. But I'm not going to move or relocate, right? And unfortunately, every single Sitecore customer is not in my area. So I want to be able to choose my location. If it's going to be New York City, if it's going to be Paris, right? I want to choose my own market rate. Is it going to be $100 an hour? Or is it going to be $150 an hour? I know my own worth, and I want to protect that, right? I want my own benefits. Even as a contractor, I chose the ability to make my own company, right? So we are defining our own benefits. We're defining our own 401k right now. We're in the middle of doing that. how we want it. Do we want matching? Yes, sure, right? I don't have to hope that the company has matching 401ks. I can just say, hey, Raul, I want matching 401ks, right? You can choose, again, you can choose on-site or remote, the big question. So not just Paris. You can choose to see if you're going to work on-site in Paris or are you going to work remote in Paris, right? You want your own preferred title. A person called me this morning and said, hey, can you work for me as a senior Sitecore developer, right? For me personally, that is not in my upward mobility, right? That would mean that I would have to step down. There's nothing wrong, again, with being a Sitecore senior developer. It's just that I want to do more SME. I want to do more architecture. I want to elevate myself a little bit higher now that I've been doing senior development for a while, right? I want my preferred title. You can work as an individual contractor if you want. You don't necessarily have to create your own company, right? You don't have to go through the pains of getting your own insurance or making your own brand, or you still have to make your personal brand, but you don't have to make a top-level company brand. You don't have to, right? You can work how you want to work. You can work individually. You can demand a company pay you W-2E. In fact, you could work as a full-time E. You know what I mean? The only issue I see with a full-time employment is that you don't get as much benefits, right? You don't get as much leeway. You get the cons, right? You don't get the ability to really press your case, right? But you could still do that. Like if you want to work that way, there's nothing wrong with working for a salary, getting benefits, nothing wrong with doing that. Or you could work for a professional services firm like we are, which our company will fight for you. And you can tell us what you want to do. You can tell us how you'd like to work. And then we will go to the customer and say, hey, this is how Chris wants to work, right? And if the customer cannot agree, we'll say no. Like we can do that. We have no problem saying no to different contracts if they don't fulfill our obligations and what our network contractors need to do, right? You can work when you want to work, right? A lot of times like I said, I have 4 customers to control. Sometimes I have to work at 3 in the morning. Sometimes I work at 6 p.m. Sometimes I take an hour-and-a-half break because I need to clear my thoughts at 1 p.m., right? I can work when I want to work, but the work gets done, right? It's not, hey, it has to be between 9 to 5. I'm going to be watching over your shoulder. I'm going to be looking at what you're doing. Like you have to be on site. It's not like that. The future of work is people want to do what they want, right? They want to be able to support themselves, support their family, but not be constricted by a work engine or a company, right? They want to go on vacation more, not less, right? Who wants to go on vacation less, right? I've never heard that before, right? And you want to choose where you want to go to vacation, right? You don't want to have to choose a small area because you can't afford it, or you know what I mean? You can't get there and get back in time because the company that's with you is constraining you, right? So this is kind of how I see the future of work in general. But I want to make it happen for Sitecore, right? For the Sitecore community, right? I want to make it happen for everybody. But because I'm a part of the Sitecore community, I'm starting there, right? So how does one even enter into Sitecore? How do you gain entry? Well, I had the 60-day license here, but it seems that has been changed to now Sitecore is doing training webinars, which is fine. And then they will eventually be setting up sandboxes. So first of all, you can get quick training on how to become a Sitecore developer, how to become a Sitecore professional, how to become a Sitecore strategist from Sitecore themselves for free. They also have paid Sitecore training, right? And then they have this new thing called sandboxes, which will allow you to test code and learn the system, right, as you go. But these things are not, guaranteed, right? They could be changed, they could be pulled at any point. So the next kind of thing, a place that you go is the community, right? You stumbled onto the community either through Stack Exchange, or you have signed up for the Sitecore community, or you have gotten to the Slack, or you've been to a user group, and that has gained you entry into Sitecore, right? That has pulled you into Sitecore. For me personally, it was Sitecore certification, right? The customer that I had requested that I learn Sitecore. That is the only reason that I gained entry into Sitecore, right? So I had to take a boot camp for 4 days and then learn the software and then get certified at the end and then be placed on a project, right? That's my last point, right? You get hired for a project, which I call the chicken and egg problem. Because if you have not had the items at the top, the training, somewhere in the community, and even with certification is hard, how can you then get hired for a project, right? So myself personally, I'm pressing Sitecore to make it fair, to make it free, which they are doing, for everyone to gain entry into Sitecore, because you shouldn't have to be hired in order to be on a Sitecore project. And then in order to be hired for a Sitecore project, you have to have 5 years in Sitecore, right? How's that possible, right? And why? Because of the opportunity on the right? Currently, there are 816 open Sitecore jobs in the United States. How can you be on that job, right, if you don't have an entry point into Sitecore? There are 19 jobs in Philadelphia, 38 in New York City, and 48 in Chicago. Unfortunately, there are not 38 me's, right? So I have no choice as a Sitecore entrepreneur but to partner with other studios and partner with other entrepreneurs in order to fill just the need in New York City. And then Philadelphia is an hour from me, right? I got called, like I said, today on a job in Philadelphia, right? So the need is still there. The need is 100% there, even through COVID. It's just, how do we gain entry, right? So the Sitecore Entrepreneur. So after we figure out how to gain entry, a typical way is through studios, right? And a studio can be one entrepreneur, or it can be multiple entrepreneurs, right? My studio started as 2 entrepreneurs, myself and Raul. That's all we had, right? Now we have 9 people in our company, and we have about 10 or 15 network contractors that we work with, because again, we couldn't expand without that, right? We couldn't grow our 2 practices. Sitecore is actually a smaller practice in our company, right? I am attempting to grow our practice with these entrepreneurs. Operational entrepreneurs, right? People who can control the entire project. These people are very, very important, right? Whether it be one person as a contractor, or it be a team that can control the entire project to make sure that, dates are met, that the client is being engaged, engagement manager is on an account, which leads into discovery, right? Usually you need someone to have discovery for you, because you can't do everything, right? You can't get the project and discover and do the operations and discover it and do everything. That's the old way. The new way is having someone come in and help you with journey mapping, right? Have a studio come in and help you with the business requirements. So you don't have to do that. Have someone come in and do all the content. Because most projects that I go on, they don't know Sitecore. The content authors don't know Sitecore. And it will be a struggle to ask the content authors to enter in all the content, right? So usually what happens is they ask us to do it. And usually what happens is you didn't plan on doing that. So it'll be nice if you have a studio who can just come in and do that for you, right? The UI UX, the design of everything, the architecture, in my opinion, is a lost art for Sitecore. I think a lot of customers now are understanding that architecture is important. If you don't have a correct architectural standpoint, your house will fall down. I've seen it time in and time out, especially with Sitecore. Sitecore is what you make it, and if you make it incorrectly, it will fall down. Then, which leads into development. Architecture creates better development, it creates better QA, and then it creates a better managed service studio, right? So you set up all those studios. Typical studios in Sitecore are Sitecore partners, which is like the top level studio entrepreneur that you can get. This gets you on the Sitecore website. It gets you an official Sitecore license that comes with it, right? It also gets you kind of a brand enhancement because you are an official Sitecore partner. You have that name brand, right? It allows you to hire other studios that don't necessarily have to be a partner, right? Other contractors, other studios or people as direct hire. So you can choose as an entrepreneur to directly hire someone if you want, right? We have direct hires, right? Who have nothing to do with Sitecore. They're just operational people, right? Or you can choose to hire contractors if you want to do professional services, things like that. If you want to do the Sitecore work and you don't have the employees, you can do that. Then there's this thing called an affiliate, which is what a not corporation is. It is a stepping stone to the Sitecore partnership, right? I think it gives you a little more leeway because you don't have as much as the restrictions as a Sitecore partner. Sitecore partners are required to have a certain number of certified developers. Those, unfortunately, those developers need to be direct hires, right? They can't be contractors. So if you can't meet that need, affiliate might be where you want to go. Affiliate is a lot easier to sign up. It's just a form. Of course, you have to be groomed by Sitecore. Sitecore will review your application and see if you are legitimate, you know what I mean? But you don't have to have the certification requirement, and you don't have to have the successful project requirement. So if you're a partner, you have to do, I believe, 3 to 4 successful projects per year, which you may be doing as an affiliate, right? I think the biggest restriction of not being a partner is the certified people. I think that's the hardest thing I've seen. However, like I said, the affiliate gives you a lot of leeway. You get treated almost as a partner, but you do not get a license currently. Maybe that will change, right? The license is a big deal for me because that allows me to train people, right? However, customers respect you the same, right? They respect the partner a little bit higher, of course, but they still respect you if you're an affiliate, right? So you have 2 pathways you could go, or 3. You could be an independent contractor, right? You can create your company, a small company of 1, a company of 2, a company of 3, be an affiliate, right? And then you can grow yourself and become a partner. The future professionals that I see in Sitecore, where I see Sitecore is going, and I base this off of A, where I see Sitecore going, and B, because of where I see Sitecore going, these are the jobs, right? These will be the new professionals of Sitecore, right? The current professionals will still be fine, but if you want to get a competitive advantage, you will understand disconnected sites, right? That's like all the rage now, Jamstack and disconnecting your site from the Sitecore platform itself, and then running that specifically in JavaScript, like if you know JavaScript and HTML. XXA and JSS will be used more and have a higher level of focus as we move forward, right? .NET Core MVC will be used more. I don't think MVC is not going anywhere, right? But the .NET Core version of it will start to emerge more as the use, right? The subsystems of Sitecore, which will take forever, but will eventually happen, will be converted into .NET Core, right? The SaaS product, when it eventually comes out, will be very popular, extremely popular. The ability that you don't have to install Sitecore anymore, thank God. And you basically can just go to a website, that website being Azure, fill out what you need, and it's already deployed, and you don't have to manage the pass, right? Of course, there are still a need to manage the pass. There's always still a need for that, but not every single customer needs it, right? A lot of customers are on the, what I call donut hole. They want Sitecore, but they don't know how to manage it, but they need SaaS. So SaaS fulfills that, right? It closes that donut hole, right? Linux and Mac will become more used in the Sitecore arena, right? They're only not used because of limitations of not being on .NET Core. Once the product is on .NET Core, Linux and Mac users will gain entry into Sitecore very quickly, right? Those professionals will gain entry. Projects will be done more in studios unless one agency takes the entire thing. That is already happening, right? That transformation in Sitecore is already happening. There will be more emphasis in Sitecore architecture. I'm already seeing more jobs for Sitecore architect, right? Less, there's still a lot for Sitecore developer, but companies are now starting to understand, okay, I need a Sitecore architect. It can't just be development, right? There will be more emphasis on machine learning, right? That Sitecore put this, they slid this into the product, but I think people are going to start, okay, now that we know Sitecore, we have it installed, it's good. What else can we do with it beyond personalization, right? Personalization is not going away. 70% of companies in this year alone are investing in personalization, right? It's going to get more and more and more. But I think machine learning also is going to, you're going to hear that more and more of a request. Right now in job descriptions, I don't see it asked for as much, but it's coming, right? So I have kind of the entrepreneur life cycle to wrap up my webinar. Is that what is the full approach or beginning approach of an entrepreneur, right? When someone approaches you, and usually that someone is a recruiter, or it could be the direct company, right? More often than not, a company running Sitecore will not hire you. More often than not, right? It can happen. I've totally seen it happen. It's never happened for me, right? I have never worked for a customer who had Sitecore. That's never happened to me, right? I'm usually approached by a recruiter. I'm usually approached by a studio. That's how I'm approached, right? So no matter who the quote unquote approacher is, never give out your personal information, right? I see all the time, week to week, a recruiter will email me and say, I need to give them my social security number. I need to give them my date of birth. I need to give them where I live. That's all false. You can say no to that. Don't think that if you say no to that, you will push your chances down. You will not, right? Defend your data, especially in this world. Do not give your data out to any approacher unless you have signed an NDA, right? Especially if you're being contacted outside of your country, right? Because the rules and laws are different outside of your country and people can steal your information. You would not think that someone would steal your information on an approach, but they will steal your information on an approach. And oddly enough, sometimes they will go and apply for jobs for you, right? And then say that they represent you, right? It's really, really weird. It's a real weird world that we live in, but that is true, right? I don't try to discuss price before the interview is complete because they haven't talked to me yet, right? I haven't had a formal interview introduction with these entities. So if I give them a price, it may sticker shock them, right? And as a contractor, we tend to charge above $100 per hour. So sometimes it sticker shocks people, right? But if they have had an interview with you, they can understand the value, right? Now, if you are confident and the price offered is in your range, sure, you can talk price. It's fine. But for me, I usually don't talk price until I have more of an engagement with the customer, right? I don't allow people who approach me to have the final say of negotiation. I never do that, right? And I almost take with a grain of salt anything a recruiter or some other person that is an intermediary that is acting on behalf of the company is telling me. I take that with a grain of salt, right? Oh, it has to be on site. Oh, it has to be this. Oh, you have to work for them directly. I take all that with a grain of salt because almost every single customer I have now, that was the case. You have to work for us. There's no chances. There's no going back. And then 3 months later, they called us and said, it's cool, right? So don't be afraid to press what you want in the approach, right? Any full-time W-2 work can be converted into corp to corp, or can be converted into independent contract, right? Or can be converted into an independent contract that pays W-2. Any W-2 can be that. With translation, you don't have to work as a direct hire unless you want to. That's up to you, right? Even if they say you have to. I screen the studio who is attempting to hire me, because usually, like I said, it's an intermediary with me, right? So I look the recruitment firm up. I look their people up on LinkedIn. I see if they're legit, right? Because if they are not legit, which there are tons that are not legit, you are wasting your time, basically, right? And they may be scamming you, right? I get items in writing, and this is chiefly because I own a company, but I think anyone should, right? Get the job description immediately, because I worked on a customer where they said, you don't have to program anything. There's no programming. This is all architecture. This is all SME. And then I got on the project and I had to program everything from scratch, every single thing, right? And I didn't have it in writing, and I didn't protect myself, right? So moving on to the interview, update your LinkedIn and your PDF/Word version of your resume. Now, I personally don't like giving out the Word version of my resume. The reason why is because people will misrepresent you. And if someone modifies your resume and gives it to somebody else, then you have to represent that, right? And you don't even know what they said about you, right? So more often than not, when someone asks for my resume, I just give them PDFs. When someone asks for resumes for my network contractors, I give them PDFs. And then I wait to see if they say, give me the Word version, right? And then I say, okay, what are you using it for? And then after whatever you're using it for, give me a copy, right, of that use, right? Review the current client site issues, right? So if you are privileged to know the client, right, review the client's site for issues, right? Don't just review the client's website, actually look at the site for Sitecore issues, right? Because usually you could find one or two, and you can bring that up on your interview, right? Study up on the main concerns from the job description, right? You want to, if they said that they wanted Sitecore Commerce, if they said they wanted XConnect, if they said they wanted personalization, study that concern, right? Be able to speak about yourself at length, right? Almost bore them with your experience, right? Be able to tell them everything you have done in Sitecore from day one, right? And then ask them direct questions about everything. It's not just showing your inquisitive nature, it's also figuring out what's going on. So if you are hired for this job, you will know the preamble, right? You will know things going in, right? Then if you are lucky to actually be on the project, from my earlier situation, take notes. It's to protect yourself and to protect your studio during the time that you are executing this project, especially if it's the first time you have done an entrepreneurial project, you're doing it on your own. take notes to protect yourself, because things will come up and you can go back to your notes, right? It's also to update your LinkedIn, right? So when you're always thinking about your next project, right? Which I have as my last one. So you want to update your LinkedIn, you want to be update your resume, you want to be update your brand, right? Your website, right? Always be early. Be early to every single meeting, be early for every single delivery. Just be 2 minutes early, be 5 minutes early, be 2 days early. Always be early, right? It just makes you look good, and it makes you have new work, right? Partner and work with other studios, and that will maximize your exposure, right? It will get you the most exposure to other people, other studios, and other contracts. You'll slowly find yourself in a good problem that you'll have more contracts than you can do. That's the problem we're finding ourselves in. That's the reason why I'm giving with talks, because we need to expand our network contractors. We need to expand our partnerships with studios in order to just do the market in New York City, right? Our approach is very simple. Everyone is an entrepreneur. That is how Raul and myself made our firm. That's what we strongly believe, that anyone can be an entrepreneur, and everyone that we hire, we take no offense if they want to make their own companies. I mean, we say do it, and then please sign a contract with us so that we can work with your studio, right? So how we work is we do corp-to-corp engagements. I only do corp-to-corp engagements, right? I have my own W-2. I get paid in W-2 salary, right? Raul gets paid W-2 salary. A lot of people in our company get paid W-2. Some people are contractors, right? So I get paid the way I want to get paid. I soon will have my own 401k. I can negotiate my own deals whenever I want, right? I can define my own practice, right? I like being a subject matter expert. I like working in architecture and if we're going to do development, senior development. And in fact, I would rather none of my network contractors do development. If I had my way, Raul, nobody would do development. I would rather partner with a development studio like Dylan's, who's on this call, right? I'd rather do that and have them be passionate about development. We're more passionate about architecture. We sell in full and half days. I think the half day is neglected too much, especially in Sitecore. A lot of customers say, oh, I need 40 hours. No, they don't. They need 20 hours, right? And if you do 20 hours for them, you can do 20 hours for somebody else, right? And when their thing runs out, you can just go and continue your 20 hours. You still have another job. That's the way I look at it, right? We work with US-based and authorized experts, but I want to get past US-based and authorized experts, right? The future of work is above this. However, this is the requirement now, and to do Sitecore in America, usually you have to either be here or you have to have the ability to be authorized to work here. I am working with my firm to defeat this every single day, right? Like I said, if there's an on-site component, we travel to clients for scheduled visits, right? We have no problem doing 2 or 3 days per week or 2 or 3 days per month. We just won't be there for the whole week, right? Because we have to do other things. We have a company to run. We have other customers. We have other clients. We live here. We have families, things like that, right? So we will come see you, but it'll be on our terms, right? We have remote offshore resources available, again, defeating the US authorized, right? We have people all over the world, in India and different countries in Europe. I try to push them as much as possible to different contracts, right? And lastly, we encourage to work with studios and work with other studios, right? Like I said, we don't mind at all if anyone in our firm, anyone wants to become an entrepreneur, we encourage it, right? We will teach people in our firm the mistakes that you know, what we've learned from, right? And with that, I'm going to open it up to questions because we only have 10 minutes left. So if you have a question, please place that question into the chat. And, oh, okay, I see. All I see is some highs. But yes, if you have a question and for the next 8 minutes, please place that question in the chat, and we can review it. Let's see here. Okay, here we have one question from Vladimir. Yeah, that's a good, yeah, everyone asked that question. Okay, so the question is, what is your recommendation for overseas entrepreneur? So my recommendation is to seek out people and partners like us who are actively working to defeat the, I don't know, the thought of somehow people overseas being not a good idea. Like I am studying why this is true. The only thing I can think of is because American companies want to watch you. They want to have a W-2 hold over you, and they want to be able to have the ability to sue you, right? And that is easier to do if you're a W-2. It's a lot easier to do that if you're a US authorized person. So if you're a US overseas person, you have that against you, right? Because you're overseas, they don't know where you are. It's hard for them to sue you. It's hard for them to hold you to a contract, right? It's hard for them to manage you, right? So that's the reason why they kind of look away, right? It's when they see from overseas. So my suggestion would be to seek out people who will fight for you in America, like company. And it's not just us. There's several companies that hate this, right? Seek out community members in the Sitecore community who are in companies who work with studios from around the world. That's my suggestion. It's a good question. That question doesn't have a solid answer.
You
right?
don't.
Are there any other? Okay. Did you ever have a client? Okay, so a new question. Working for American clients, did you ever have a client that specifically asked not to hire? Yes. Not to hire offshore developers? Yes. Almost all, unfortunately. Unfortunately, almost all of my clients make contractual obligations that say you must be US authorized. Some of them say you can't even be a contractor, right? Unless you work directly, right? You can't even be subcontracted, right? So they will hire a not corporation, but the person has to be an employee, or they won't hire that person. So even before I get to the overseas, I am fighting the ability that they say that I have to have someone who is an employee for me, right? I'm an affiliate. I mostly hire contractors. So I mostly work with them, right? So that's the first issue. Then the second issue would be, yeah, if that person is outside of America or outside Canada, then they won't hire them. They won't even let me submit them, right? However, I have been working with a lot of customers and showing customers blogs and telling customers, oh, we solved that issue because an overseas MVP told me how to solve it. I've been kind of doing that, and they've been starting to understand the value, right? And then there's other customers that work with overseas people and have no problem. And I get them to be kind of a testimonial, right, to other customers, right? So good question. Again, that answer is ongoing to defeat that stigma, right? Because I think, especially with COVID, I think customers woke up that there are just not enough Sitecore professionals in their area. What I tell other people is, I tell recruiters, in order to hire someone, that the person that you're trying to hire, like the person who called me, she called me to work in Philadelphia. I said, the fact that you're calling me and I live in New York proves you can't find someone in Philadelphia. It proves it, right? Why are you talking to me? So wouldn't it be better if you can hire me, hire someone overseas? What is the difference, right? That is kind of what I'm trying to defeat. What is the difference? What's the big deal, right? Good question, really good question. Dylan asked us at Symposium, his challenge right now is growing larger than himself, correct? How do you sell your team to clients rather than yourself? Good question. Okay, I struggled with this big time. Raul used to yell at me a lot for this because I came from being an independent contractor, right? So even today, my sell is mostly on LinkedIn. Like 60, 70% of my customers come from LinkedIn, right? And they come after me. So they come after me, and I don't usually want to do development, so I have to sell my team. What I noticed was selling myself is easy. Selling yourself is easy, right? Selling the team is hard. So you have to be able to train yourself. First, number one, have all of the resumes ready. Have all the resumes in your format ready to go before you get contacted, right? Then have your challenge sell, which is basically you're challenging the person that is selling you, right? You're challenging selling them, and you're saying, hey, I did that just today. I said, I don't normally work as a senior developer, but I have this hotshot senior developer in Texas. He can work for you, and I will be the SME. And they didn't say no to this, right? I thought they would say no, but they didn't. They said, give me that resume. You know what I mean? That was the answer. Give me the resume of that hotshot guy that you have, right? So that's what I recommend to you, Dylan, that when it comes in, and even if you want to do it, Dylan, you should be recommending your team first before yourself. And the way you sell it is you say, I'm the SME, I'll do 5 hours, right? I'll do 5 hours, I'll do 10 hours. But my developers and my network contractors and my experts from around the world, they will do 30 hours, right? Or you will do 20 hours and your contractor will do 20 hours. That's typically how I work. I do 20 hours of architecture and SME, and then we have other contractors do the other 20 hours, right? But you have to get in the habit of selling the team. It's hard, but you have to shift. And another way Raul taught me, another way is they say no to you selling the team, okay? You get on the job, and you don't have to be shadowy, right? Even though we call it shadow, right? We have a team member shadow us, right? And typically I get permission for this, right? I get permission from the customer. Hey, I tell the customer, hey, I need this person to help me, right? If this person is helping me, I can do more leverage. I can do more for you, right? This person will cost you cheaper and can do more delivery. And the customer usually likes that, right? It's cheaper for you, I can do more, and everybody wins, right? So usually that happens after you get the project, right? So you wait like 2 or 3 months, you do the project, and then you say, hey, we have a lot's coming in, I need this person. And you kind of pull that person in, right? And that's kind of my new way of doing it, because a lot of people just want to buy you, right? So let's see here. Did you have a chance to work with UK customers? If so, what's the difference? I had a chance to work with UK developers in Sitecore, and it was no difference, right? If they were just another studio that we worked with, it was awesome, right? what was cool was they were in front of me time-wise. So when I woke up, they had like 4 things done. So it was awesome to work with that. And that's another reason why I like working with studios around the world. They're in front of us. So when I wake up, especially with my India studio, they have 8 hours of work done before I even get up, right? So if anything, I didn't work directly for a UK customer. I've only worked for American customers, but I have worked with UK studios. Right? Let's see here. For fixed projects, of course. Yep, fixed price, not hourly. Can studios like your firm delegate work to offshore source companies, or you're obligated to declare all developers work on the project? Depends on the project, depends on the contract, right? I try to get out of that obligation as much as possible. We personally don't like fixed price because, especially with Sitecore, there's always issues, and you can't do agile correctly with fixed price, right? It's hard to do agile when you could only have a certain number of days or a certain number of hours, right? So we try to not do fixed price. We try to do subscriptions, and we try to do by the day pricing, day or half day, that's it. However, if we do have to do a full price, or a fixed price, I try to defeat obligation for workers, right? However, usually that doesn't happen because it's fixed price and they want to be rest assured that it gets done. Okay, so good question. These are all good questions. Any more questions before we call it a day? Really good questions, guys. Really good questions. It makes me think about my next webinar. My next webinar is going to be in June. We're trying to do at least a couple live webinars per month, but in the Sitecore realm, we're doing at least one live one per month. And my next one is more centered on the actual operation of your studio, right? Operating your studio. So Dylan, this could be really good for you, you know, because I will discuss and talk about all the nitty-gritty issues and concerns and delays with projects that we saw and how to avoid those. And with that, it's 7:02. So I don't want to take your time anymore, and I want to be conscious. I want to thank you for definitely spending this hour with us and hearing our story and asking your amazing questions. We'll be placing this on YouTube. So if you want to send it to any of your friends, please do. And have a great night. Wash your hands and stay safe. Thank you.